Today, we bring you a story about two men being imprisoned by six stunningly beautiful women. In the early morning, photographer Xiandao was making love with his girlfriend, trying to create the next generation. Suddenly, the ringing phone interrupted his good mood. Annoyed, he got up to answer the call. It turns out that Xuandao's father, Shanjing, has passed away. The government has already taken care of Shanjing's remains. Xiandao, being Shanjing's only child, needs to return to handle his father's belongings. Xiandao doesn't feel sad about his father's death, just finds it troublesome. When Xiandao was 4 years old, Zhangji abandoned his wife and child to live alone in the mountains. For many years, Xiandao and his mother depended on each other and never saw his father. To Xiandao, his father Shanji died when he was 4. Despite his reluctance, Xiandao had to return to his hometown. Before leaving, he promised his girlfriend he would be back the same day. Xuandao's childhood home was deep in the mountains. When he returned to his childhood place, everything felt unfamiliar. The neighbor lady who was cleaning saw Xiandao and quickly pulled him to sit down, even poured him a glass of water. From the neighbors, Xiandao learned that over the years, his father, Shanji, spent all his time in the mountains, as if searching for something. He only came out to do part-time jobs when he ran out of money, and after earning some, he would dive back into the mountains. Yamaji's most frequent side job was helping villagers with farming. However, later on, everyone sold their land to developers. Only Yamaji refused to sell, and even called the villagers traitors. However, Yamaji's actions have always been odd, so no one pays attention to what he says. Then, the neighbor changed the topic and told Xiandao. The day before his death, Yamaji was unusually happy, as if he had discovered something incredible. He was full of energy. Unexpectedly, he was found dead in his own bathtub the next day. Xiandao doesn't care about Shanji's cause of death. He just wants to finish things here quickly. After bidding farewell to the neighbors, Xiandao started wandering around the old house in the mountains. He accidentally discovered Shanji's camera. Being a photography enthusiast, Xiandao picked up the camera to check it out. He found that except for the missing lens cap, everything else was fine. He immediately hung the camera around his neck. To Xuandao's surprise, this old house surprisingly has a hidden room. The walls of the hidden room are covered with photos that Shanji took in the forest over the years. One photo catches Xuandao's attention. It shows a towering ancient tree and a glowing owl. Looking at the glowing owl in the photo, Xiandao feels a fleeting thought in his mind, but couldn't catch it, so curiously put the photo away. At this moment, the agent brought the developer Lao Yu to Xiandao. Lao Yu wanted to buy the house and land left by Shanji. The agent was afraid that Xiandao would refuse to sell and kept persuading him. The land left in the mountains could be dangerous if a landslide occurs. As the owner, Xiandao would be responsible. It's better to sell it, get some money, and avoid the risk. Xiandao was very curious. Since owning land is so risky, why did the developers buy it at a high price? Developer Lao Yu explained that they wanted to protect the environment, which is the most important thing. Xiandao didn't care what Lao Yu and his team wanted the land for. He just wanted to resolve the land issue quickly. He quickly signed the papers to go back to his girlfriend. Lao Yu, as if afraid Xiandao would change his mind, paid in cash immediately. After dealing with his father's affairs, Xiandao was ready to go home but was told he missed the bus to the county. Fortunately, Lao Yu offered to take Xiandao to the station since he was leaving the village. And so, Xiandao hitched a ride with Lao Yu. Lao Yu drove at breakneck speed, showing off his driving skills. Xiandao repeatedly asked him to slow down, but Lao Yu ignored him. At this moment, an accident occurred. As the car passed through a tunnel, a woman in white suddenly appeared in the middle of the road. To avoid hitting her, Lao Yu sharply turned the steering wheel, causing the car to crash into the roadside rocks. Both Xiandao and Lao Yu lost consciousness. When Xiandao woke up again, he found himself kidnapped. The woman in black, Xiao Yi, who was guarding him, seemed unaware that Xiandao had woken up and continued cooking. At this moment, Xiandao's girlfriend Xiang Qing called. Xiandao wanted to get his phone back to ask Xiang Qing for help, but Xiao Yi immediately smashed the phone with a single blow. Xiandao was terrified and swallowed his words. He quietly got up, planning to escape while Xiao Yi was cooking. But as soon as he opened the door, Xiao Yi appeared at the entrance, causing Xiandao to fall to the ground in fear. However, Xiao Yi didn't seem angry about Xiandao's escape. Instead, he brought him some meat soup. Seeing that Xiao Yi meant no harm, Xiandao drank it without worry. Next second, Xiandao spat out the soup like he was electrocuted, his body recoiling. What he drank wasn't meat soup at all. It was clearly insect soup. Xiandao was disgusted and retreated in fear. Xiao Yi picked up a stick and hit Xiandao, as if blaming him for wasting food. Xiandao anxiously asked what was going on and how Lao Yu, who was with him, was doing. Xiao Yi refused to say anything, staring intently at Xiandao while devouring his chocolate. This made Xiandao sigh. Xiao Yi is truly a strange woman. At this moment, he didn't know that he would meet 6 strange women in the coming days. On the other side, Lao Yu was also kidnapped. The blonde woman guarding him was eating a dead rabbit, savoring it raw and bloody. After finishing, she took another bite and fed Lao Yu mouth to mouth. This disgusted Lao Yu. While they were pushing a dead rabbit back and forth, the woman in red came to give Lao Yu some water. Seeing the naive and innocent woman, Lao Yu obediently drank the water. However, in the next moment, the mistress's pupils turned an abnormal gray, and she also started gnawing on the dead rabbit. Among the women in the forest, the most relaxed is the one in green. She is currently lying on a bench, basking in the sun. Meanwhile, Xiandao was forced into the bubbling green water by the woman in black, Xiao Yi. The water looked abnormal, but under Xiao Yi's threat, Xian Dao slowly stepped into it. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, the woman in white, Xiao Wu, emerged from the water. She dragged Xian Dao underwater, inviting him to dance. Xian Dao had no interest in appreciating Xiao Wu's dance. He struggled to swim upwards, trying to reach the surface. Xian Dao, who narrowly escaped, was eager to leave this eerie place. As he passed the woodshed, he unexpectedly found Lao Yu, who had been hung upside down after a failed escape attempt. Both were trapped in this haunted place together. Xian Dao naturally wouldn't leave someone to die. He hurriedly went inside and put down Lao Yu. Just as they were about to leave, the blonde waitress responsible for watching Lao Yu suddenly appeared. She quickly locked the woodshed door, trapping Xian Dao and Lao Yu again. The next morning, the woman in black brought meat soup for the two. Having experienced the soup's potency, Xian Dao hesitated to take a sip. But Lao Yu, already starving, eagerly grabbed the bowl and drank it in big gulps. It wasn't until he almost finished the bowl that he noticed something was off. Lao Yu took a closer look and realized it was a bowl of insect soup. Seeing the bugs floating in the bowl, he was so frightened that he dropped the bowl, shattering it, and then fell to the ground, vomiting uncontrollably. Xian Dao calmly took a sip of mineral water and reassured Lao Yu not to be afraid. These women didn't seem to have any intention of killing them. Lao Yu, however, was skeptical and didn't believe Xian Dao at all. At this moment, Lao Yu noticed that the seemingly harmless woman in the red dress was standing at the door. He quickly came up with an idea. Lao Yu pretended to show her something interesting to lure her in. Curious, she opened the door, and Lao Yu seized the opportunity to push her down. They beat her up and tied her up. Now the woodshed door is open, and Lao Yu and Xian Dao hurriedly escaped. This forest is vast, and neither of them knows which way to go. They wandered in the forest for a long time, but couldn't find the right path. Xian Dao was too tired to walk and sat down to rest by the roadside. Lao Yu didn't want to stay in this eerie place any longer, so he kept moving forward. However, it wasn't long before he encountered Xian Dao resting by the roadside again. It seems they had been going in circles. At this moment, the two saw a woman in blue named Xiao Lu. Xiao Lu was holding a child and smiled at them. When Xian Dao saw Xiao Lu's face clearly, he was stunned because Xiao Lu looked exactly like his girlfriend, Xiang Cheng. While Xian Dao was in shock, Xiao Lu's two children snatched Xian Dao's camera and Lao Yu's briefcase. In the blink of an eye, the child disappeared. Xian Dao anxiously looked around and found his camera under a tree. Besides the camera, there was the lens cap that had been lost for some time and some personal belongings of his father, Shanji. Seeing these items, Xian Dao couldn't help but be lost in thought. He felt that he didn't stumble upon this place by accident, but was guided here by something. Perhaps it was fate, or maybe it was his deceased father. Xian Dao believed that instead of escaping, he should follow what fate had in store. There might be an important mission for him to complete. Thinking Lao Yu is harshly punishing a child who stole his briefcase. Xian Dao quickly stops him, and the child seizes the opportunity to escape. Lao Yu, annoyed, asks Xian Dao what he wants. Xian Dao expressed his intention to stay and investigate, but Lao Yu firmly opposed. Lao Yu dreamed of leaving this place as soon as possible. He mocked Xian Dao for being as stubborn as his deceased father. Unable to agree, they parted ways. Xian Dao wandered through the forest all day without any results. It was only after nightfall that he found his way back to where the women lived. It seemed like the woman in black, Xiao Yi, already knew Xian Dao would return. Instead of being angry about his escape during the day, she offered him some jerky and invited him to watch Xiao Si, the woman in green, perform a dance. On the other side, after parting ways with Xian Dao, Lao Yu was quickly attacked by the blonde woman, Xiao Er. Perhaps Xiao Er saw Lao Yu harming a child and was extremely disgusted with him. Xiao Er swung her axe fiercely at Lao Yu. After a few moves, Xiao Er forced Lao Yu against a big tree. She raised the axe and swung it down hard, but it struck a nearby tree trunk. The force was so strong that the axe got stuck. Taking advantage of this moment, Lao Yu hurriedly escaped. Old Yu walked in the forest all day, but by nightfall, he found himself back at the women's place. It seems these women are indeed not ordinary humans. Lao Yu had been walking in the forest all day and was already exhausted. He quietly sneaked into the kitchen to steal some food. However, the woman in white, Xiao Wu, was in the kitchen at that moment. Seeing Xiao Wu's fierce expression, Lao Yu's hands trembled. But he was too hungry, so he mustered the courage to take some food. Fortunately, Xiao Wu didn't attack him. After eating his fill, Lao Yu started to wander around. He also ran into the woman in red whom he had deceived and beaten earlier. Seeing him, she turned to leave, but he quickly called her back. Looking at her innocent face, a wicked thought arose in his mind. He led her to a nearby grove to satisfy his unspeakable desires. Meanwhile, Xian Dao is enjoying the dance of the green-clad lady, Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi lies on a long bench, surrounded by torches. In the flickering firelight, Xiaoxi begins her unique dance. This is a dance never seen before on Xian Dao. In Xiaoxi's strange dance, Xian Dao saw his deceased father, Shanji. Shanji said many strange things and finally told Xian Dao, "The forest will give you the answer." Xian Dao had many more questions, but Yamaji suddenly vanished. At this moment, Xiaoxi finished her dance. Meteors in the sky turned into sharp swords, shooting towards the chests of Xiaoxi and Xian Dao. Xuan Dao's eyes widened in terror. The next morning, Xian Dao woke up in bed, completely unharmed. Was everything that happened yesterday just a dream? He carefully checked his chest and found a long, black chest hair had suddenly grown there. Amused, he tugged at it before getting up, planning to head into the forest to find the answers his father mentioned. As soon as Xiandao stepped out, he noticed that the dancing girl from yesterday, Xiao Si, had split into six. At this moment, 6 Xiao Sis were lying on the bench sunbathing. Xiandao seemed to have started accepting this bizarre forest, and these strange women. He glanced curiously before turning away to find the answers he sought in the forest. But after several days without any clues, Xiandao was really exhausted. He returned to the women's quarters to rest. However, just as he lay down, the woman in black, Xiao Yi, pulled him off the bed. Xiao Yi forcefully dragged Xiandao to a large jar and opened the lid, revealing a jar of foul-smelling sauce. Xiandao was choked and kept coughing, while Xiao Yi, with a look of delight, inhaled the aroma. Xiao Yi then dipped his finger into the sauce and tried to feed it to Xiandao. Xiandao hurriedly tried to avoid it, but under Xiao Yi's insistence, he ended up tasting a bit. Xiandao then discovered that the sauce, which smelled fishy and foul, was incredibly delicious. He took several bites and felt all his fatigue vanish, feeling completely refreshed. Rejuvenated, Xiandao continued his journey to find answers. On the other hand, developer Lao Yu is also diligently searching for clues, but his goal is to leave the forest as soon as possible. His boss promised him a reward of 200 million yen if he could buy the land on Xian Island. Lao Yu has already signed the purchase contract for Xian Island and is eager to leave and claim his reward from his boss. Unfortunately, for several days, Lao Yu couldn't find a way out. On this day, while wandering aimlessly in the forest like a headless chicken, he stumbled upon. Seeing the mistress's pretty face, Lao Yu reached out again. But she guided his hand to her belly, hinting she was pregnant. Lao Yu impatiently pushed her hand away, accusing her of lying, as they had just met a few days ago. How could she get pregnant so quickly? It seems Lao Yu forgot that the mistress is not an ordinary person. Lao Yu didn't care if the mistress was pregnant. He pinned her to the ground and took off her pants. Just then, Xiandao arrived in time. Stop Lao Yu's beastly behavior. Seeing his plan exposed, Lao Yu turned to leave. Xiandao chased after him, demanding to know what Lao Yu had done to the mistress. Already annoyed by Xiandao's interference, Lao Yu pushed Xiandao into the river and continued on his way. He was in a hurry to leave the forest to ask his boss for a 200 million yen reward. But this time, no matter which direction he went, he could see the woman in white staring at him. Scared, Lao Yu lost his footing and tumbled down the slope. He fell into the water, and his briefcase dropped by the riverbank. On the other side, Xiandao, who had just been pushed into the water by Lao Yu, was pulled out by Xiao Wu. He drifted along the current to a small creek. When Xiandao climbed out of the creek, he found the surroundings somewhat familiar. He took out the glowing owl photo he found in his father Shanji's room and compared it, realizing he was now at the location where the photo was taken. A long-buried memory surged into Xiandao's mind. When he was 4 years old, he was playing nearby with his father but accidentally fell into the water. At the critical moment, a stranger woman saved him. Yamaji wanted to thank the woman, but she left abruptly. He tried to take a photo of her, but she suddenly turned into an owl and flew away. Yamaji managed to capture a glowing owl in his photo. Because of this, Yamaji firmly believed that there were spirits in this forest. These spirits would protect humans. To repay the spirits for saving Xian Island and to protect both the spirits and humans, Yamaji decided to guard this forest. After this, the mother took Xiandao away. But little Xiandao forgot this memory. In his eyes, it was Shanji who chose to abandon his wife and child to live in seclusion in the mountains. At this moment, Xiandao finally remembered everything that happened back then and understood his father's choice. The belated sorrow deeply pierced Xiandao. At some point, it started raining heavily. Xiandao ran through the rain, crying and shouting, releasing all his grief. Moments later, the rain stopped and the sky cleared. While wandering in the forest, Xiandao unexpectedly found Lao Yu's briefcase. The documents inside revealed that the developer bought the forest not to protect the environment, but to bury nuclear waste. The villagers sold their land to developers, but only Shanjing understood the importance of the forest and spirits to humans. He refused to sell and even submitted a protest letter to the developers. It takes nature a full 100,000 years to break down this nuclear waste, so we absolutely cannot bury it here. The result was so. When Xiandao sold the last piece of land to the developers to prevent the dumping of nuclear waste, 6 spirits in the mountains trapped him and Lao Yu here. The truth begins to surface. Only now does Xiandao understand his father's persistence over the years. Xiandao, carrying a briefcase with documents proving the developer's crimes, finds the woman in black, Xiaoyi. He tells Xiaoyi that once he gets out, he will expose the developer's crimes and take over from his father, Shanjing, to protect this forest. In the next moment, Xiaoyi summoned a bee to guide Xiandao. Following the bee's lead, Xiandao stumbled out of the enchanted forest, but eventually collapsed by the roadside due to exhaustion. Fortunately, his girlfriend Xiangqing arrived in time to help Xiandao up. She had been worried when he didn't return as scheduled and couldn't be reached. In a panic, she called the police. After a few days of investigation, the police informed Xiangqing that Xiandao had been in a car accident and his whereabouts were unknown. Only a wrecked car was found at the scene. The police speculated that Xiandao might have perished. Xiangqing couldn't believe that Xiandao had left her like this, so she decided to visit Xuandao's hometown herself. Xiangqing arrived at the scene of Xuandao's car accident. Just as the police helpless, Xiangqing went to Xuandao's father, Shanjing's house, hoping to find useful clues there. With Xiangqing's diligent search, she discovered a hidden room in the house. Inside, she found a notebook. The notes detailed Shanji's exploration results of the jungle over the years. Xiangqing carefully read through the notes and accidentally found a letter inside. It was left by Xianji for Xiandao. At this moment, Xiangqing suddenly thought that Xiandao might have gone to the forest in the mountains, just like Xianji. She immediately set off for the forest and happened to rescue the unconscious Xiandao at the edge of the forest. Under Orange's careful care, Xiandao soon woke up. The first thing he did after waking up, he called the agent, explaining that he was unaware of the developer's intentions when he sold the land left by Xianjing. Now, he wants to cancel the contract, but the agent flatly refused his request. He even mocked Xiandao, saying that even if he had known the developer's intentions, he would have bowed to the exorbitant purchase price. Infuriated, Xiandao hung up the phone. He told Xiangqing that he had to rush back to Tokyo immediately to sue the developer on the way back to Tokyo. Xiangqing handed the found notes and letter to Xiandao. In the letter, Xuandao's father, Xianjing, revealed that many years ago, a forest spirit granted Xiandao a second life. Therefore, Xiandao must spend his life protecting the forest. Unexpectedly, developers also have their eyes on this forest. Yamaji doesn't want this place to become a nuclear waste disposal site, but the villagers have sold their land to developers. He is the only one left fighting against them. Yamaji told Xiandao that if anything happened to him, he hoped Xiandao would continue to protect the forest. Finally, Yamaji reminded Xiandao, never trust a developer named Lao Yu. Xiandao recalled the protest letter from Xianji in Lao Yu's file bag. When he just got home, a neighbor told him that the day before his death, Yamakai was energetic and in high spirits. But the next day, he suddenly died at home. It was very strange. Xiandao finally realized that it was Lao Yu who killed Xianji to get the land he left behind and tricked him into signing the land sale contract. Xiandao told his girlfriend Xiangqing everything he encountered in the forest these days. He asked Xiangqing to take the documents he got from Lao Yu and Xianji's notes on forest research back to Tokyo to find a lawyer to sue the developer. He returned to the forest to avenge his father and protect it. Orange knew that Xiandao's journey was fraught with danger, but she understood his determination. With tears in her eyes, she watched him leave. Xiandao embarked on the same path as his father, Xianji. He drove the car like a few days ago and hit the roadside rocks again. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the magical forest. On the other side, Lao Yu, who was frightened by the woman in white and fell into the water, woke up in a hot spring. The first thing he did was look for his briefcase. When he found that the contents of the briefcase had been taken, he became instantly anxious and uneasy. After all, their company is buying land to build a nuclear waste disposal plant under the guise of environmental protection. Once this is exposed, the company will definitely not let him off. As for the person who took the documents, Lao Yu is certain it was Xiandao. Thinking of this, he immediately found the woman in black, Xiao Yi, and forced her to reveal Xian Island's whereabouts. Xiao Yi didn't answer Lao Yu's questions and was immediately beaten by him. The woman in red, the mistress, saw the first wife being beaten and immediately stepped in to help. Lao Yu pushed the mistress away. At that moment, he was shocked to see her belly was swollen, as if she was about to give birth. However, Lao Yu showed no mercy and violently pushed her to the ground. The mistress, who fell unexpectedly, immediately felt severe abdominal pain, and there was a faint trace of blood between her legs. Lao Yu ignored the mistress who was in labor and turned away. Lao Yu continued to search for an exit in the forest. Unexpectedly, he encountered the woman in green, Xiao Lu. Lao Yu remembered that it was Xiao Lu's child who had stolen his briefcase, which almost got him killed by the blonde woman, Xiao Er. With both old and new grudges, Lao Yu, relying on his strength, killed Xiao Lu in one move. At this moment, the blonde waitress who scared Lao Yu reappeared. She and Lao Yu started fighting, and neither could gain the upper hand. Eventually, Lao Yu injured the waitress, but she bit him and then transformed into a venomous snake and escaped. Lao Yu, unable to find any trace of Xian Island, returns to the women's quarters. At this moment, the woman in black, Xiao Yi, while helping the woman in red give birth, Lao Yu went up to question Xiao Yi about the whereabouts of Xian Island. Xiao Yi still refused to reveal anything. Frustrated, Lao Yu injured Xiao Yi with a hoe, accompanied by the woman's painful groans. She laid a huge egg. This was her and Lao Yu's child. Lao Yu couldn't accept that his child was an egg. He snatched the child from the mistress and smashed it on the ground. Xiao San screamed and fell to the ground, frantically trying to piece together the broken eggs. After a long time, she realized it was futile. Enraged, she lunged at Lao Yu, seeking revenge for her child. At this moment, Xiandao returned to the women's residence and witnessed the scene. Xiao Yi was surprised to see Xiandao, not expecting his return. Xiandao punched Lao Yu, telling him to stop troubling the women. He then accused Lao Yu of destroying what their father had protected all his life. Lao Yu dismissed it and demanded that Xiandao return the stolen data. The two immediately started fighting. Xiandao was no match for Lao Yu. Ruthless and cruel, Lao Yu quickly pinned Xiandao to the ground and beat him up. He then picked up a steel fork nearby and stabbed it into Xuandao's chest. Xiandao lay on the ground, unable to resist any longer. Lao Yu seized the chance to escape the scene. Xiandao could clearly feel his life slipping away. He looked at Xiao Yi and Xiao San, who were also lying in pools of blood, and closed his eyes in guilt. In the end, he had broken his promise. He could no longer protect this forest, nor could he return to his girlfriend, Xiang Cheng. Meanwhile, Lao Yu tirelessly searched for an exit in the forest until his death. After he died, his body transformed into flowers and plants, becoming one with the forest. Title: 6 Singing Women, released in Japan in 2023. Throughout the entire movie, it's more of an environmental fantasy than a horror film. Humans protect nature, and nature protects humans. This is a mutual journey between humans and nature. If humans recklessly destroy the environment, they will inevitably face nature's punishment.